Hello, Evanna. So I decided to record a video just in case anything in the future happens to me. And there are things that as a parent, we always want our children to know. And if anything was to happen to me, I would always want to know the things that I'm going to say in this. So it's 2017 and you're currently 5 years old and you are the absolute light of my life. You are something special. And I just wanted to talk really about you for this video, and hopefully you'll watch it and see what a massive impact you had on my life. So I've got your baby book here that I filled out religiously when you were born. So I found out that I was pregnant with you just before you were born. I'll tell you this. We obviously had Farah, your big sister. Farah was about 10 months old when your dad said he wanted to have another baby. And I actually was quite happy just to have one child and that be that. But your dad really wanted a second baby. So I was like, okay, I had the coil at the time, I believe. It may have been the implant. I can't remember which one now. I had that taken out. Farah was 10 months old and we were like, we'll see what happens. It might be a couple of years. We'll see what will be. And about 2 weeks later, I don't drink squash. I only really drink water. And I was craving lemon squash. And I rang your dad and I said, I really want, like, on your way back from work, will you pick up some lemon squash? And he said, you're pregnant. And I said, no, I'm not. It's only been like 2 weeks since I had whatever taken out. He said, yeah, you're pregnant. He said, go walk to Spa shop and get yourself a pregnancy test. So I was like, no. So I went anyway and got a pregnancy test and I came back and lo and behold, I was pregnant. So I rang your dad and I said, oh my gosh. I said, it's positive. And he was like, no way. And I was like, yeah. And he came home shortly after that and we were just like really happy, although I was concerned how it was going to go down when I had a 10-month-old in Farah. So Farah turned 1 on the 6th of August, and I think it was about then when I had my first scan with you, which I think is in this book somewhere actually. My first scan, yeah, let's have a look. Oh yeah, first scan on the 9th of August, 2011. First scan, there you are. That was the first time we saw you. Got other scan pictures in here. And I knew 100% you were a boy. The same way I knew 100% that Farah was a girl. Positive. So we booked in for a private, we paid for a gender scan, private 4D scan, and we found out on the 9th of October, went along on a Sunday in Nottingham, me, Ian and Farah went along for it to be confirmed that you were a boy, obviously, and they were obviously looking on the screen. I was waiting for them to show me the little penis to say, there we go, there's your little boy, and they said, it's a girl, and I was like, what? I said, it's a girl. I was like, it's not, it's a boy. Said, no, it's definitely a girl. And I was like, can you check? And they said, yeah, we have, it's a girl. And I was devastated. I was like, oh my God, really? And I think Ian was as well. And so we finished the scan, had our paid for our pictures, and we drove home from Nottingham to Melton. I cried the whole way back. I was like, I thought it was a boy. I thought we were going to have a girl and a boy. And Ian was just as sad as me. And we got back to Melton, which is about half an hour. And I calmed down. And I was like, it might be quite nice having 2 girls. And then Ian, I think, had come round as well. And we were like, yeah, it might be quite nice. And we'd gone to Zoe Cross's little boy, Austin, who got christened that day. So we went to the christening. I said, oh, I'm having a girl. And everyone said, oh, how are you feeling? And I was like, yeah, I'm actually looking forward to it. So I'd completely done a U-turn. And I then came to terms with the fact I was going to have 2 girls. And I actually got really excited then as well. I was like, oh, having 2 girls is probably going to be a lot of fun. So that was when we found out we were having our little Evanna. And I had a very normal pregnancy. I was obviously dealing with a toddler at the time. I'm trying to see if there's any pictures of me pregnant in here. Very normal pregnancy. Nothing unusual really. This picture of me pregnant taking Farah swimming. Very new in there. And everything was great. And then I was about 39 weeks pregnant, so I had a week to go, and I'd gone to Twin Lakes on the Thursday, so I was 39 weeks pregnant, gone to Twin Lakes on the Thursday, took Farah, And I was on the Bounty Castle, I was on all the fun stuff, so it's a theme park, soft play area near Milton. And I felt pains, and I kind of knew that I was going into labour, but it was slow labour. So I was going through the contractions, but still hanging out with Farah at Twin Lakes. And I came home at tea time. I said to Ian, I think I'm in labour. And he was like, all right, okay. I was like, but it's not, nothing's really happening yet. So I was like, I'm going to still go out tonight, because I was due to go to Christine Goddard's baby shower with Eva. And so I went to that, and I was in agony. And I remember Caroline Thompson saying, I think she was taking me home, and she was like, your water's best not go in the car. I was like, they won't. I was like, but I was in agony. I was really in labour at this point. So Caroline Thompson drove me home, and I said, this is about 9:30 at night on Thursday night. And I said to Ian, I think I need to go to the hospital. He was like, are you sure? I said, yeah. So we drove to, so I'm trying to think if I'm telling you this right. So Grandma and Granddad, to Ian's mum and dad, the Thursday? Yeah, Suzanne came round on the Thursday and slept in our bed to be up for Farah in the morning. And me and Ian went over to Leicester Hospital, and they confirmed that I was in slow labour and it'd be a couple of days. And because I'd had a cesarean with the first baby, with Farah, they wanted me to stay in until I gave birth, which could have been like 4 or 5 days. Because I had Farah back home, who was then a 19-month-old, I was like, no way am I being away from Farah for 4 or 5 days. That's never going to happen. No way. So I discharged myself on Friday morning, early hours of Friday morning, discharged myself. I said, I'm going home. I'm going to have this baby in 4 or 5 days. I'm going to carry on being in labour at home, and I'll come back when the baby's about ready to come out. And they weren't happy, but I did that anyway. So discharged myself, and me and Ian left, and I was getting really cranky at this point. I was tired as well. So we came back home Friday morning, and Farah had a swimming lesson on that day. And so Suzanne, so Grandma, took Farah to her swimming lesson, I believe. And I just dealt with the labour. I was in the bath, I was on the sofa, I was in the bath again, I was on the sofa, I was in the bath again, I went to bed, I got in the bath again, and I was just trying to cope with the labour. And I remember Ian saying, when he got back from work on the Friday afternoon, like, do you need to go into hospital? And I was like, no. I was like, I feel like crap, but it'll be fine. So dealt with that, and then Farah was ready for bed, and Ian said, shall we take Farah to my mum and dad's, who lived across the road, in case we need to go to hospital in the middle of the night? And I was like, no, because this is going to take like 4 or 5 days. So I want Farah to be with me as much as possible, because when we do have the baby, I'm going to be away from Farah for a couple of days. So I don't want it to prolong that even more. So Farah went to bed at home with us at 7 p.m. And I think I went to bed as well. And then I kept getting up about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in pain, and I was going to have baths, and then I was in the bed and bath. And then I believe that I went into the bath maybe about 11 o'clock at night, and I was like, oh my God, this baby is coming. I was like, the pain was unbearable. The pain was excruciating. So I said to Ian, I was like, get me to hospital. Straight, I was like, I need to go to the hospital. So he was like, okay. So he rang his mum and dad, and Paul came over. And between Paul, so Granddad, and Ian, they carried a sleeping Farah, 19-month-old sleeping Farah, in all of her blankets, carried her across the road to go and sleep at Grandma and Granddad's house. And then Ian came back, was like, right, let's go. We're like, yeah. So we got in the car, and I think we had our Picasso, red Picasso at the time. And he started driving to Leicester, and we'd not even got about 5 minutes down the street when Ian was like, I forgot my wallet. And I was like, oh, do you need your wallet? And he was like, yeah, parking and all of this. And I was like, oh, God. So we drove back home, and he went inside, and he picked up his wallet, and he got back in the car. So then we started driving again, and we got about 5 or 10 minutes on the way to Leicester. And every time I was having a really big contraction, I was winding the window down. I was like, I couldn't even speak. It was that painful. And then as soon as the contraction ended, I'd like wind the window back up. So Ian knew that every time it went, I was going through a serious contraction. And then every time the window went, that was the end of that contraction. So he kind of knew, because I couldn't even speak. I was in so much pain. And then, so we were about 10 minutes on the way to Leicester, and I was like, where's the notes? Where's the notes? And Ian was like, shit. Because like, when I went in to get the wallet, I took the notes in with me, I left them on the side. And I was like, well, we can't go to hospital without the notes. So we had to go back home again for the second time, pick up the notes, which you have with all the information on. And we went back over to Leicester. I was livid. but I was just in so much pain anyway. And then we got to the Leicester General, which is about half an hour away from where we live, and Ian pulled up outside the front, and I said, I just need to go in, you park and meet me in there. Obviously this was not done as calm as that. So he dropped me off, and I must have had an adrenaline rush, because still to this day don't know how I managed this. I stood outside the car and I got myself walking from the entrance of the hospital inside all the way up the corridor, turned to the right, which is the labour ward, got into the labour ward, walked to the desk, got to the desk, and I was like, I'm having a baby. And then I think somebody came with a wheelchair, and I literally just collapsed. I do not even know how I got there. Honestly, I couldn't walk. I was in so much pain, so I don't even know how I did that. So they got me into a room, and I was like, look at my notes, look at my notes. And I'd said that I didn't want any interference with the birth. I didn't want any drugs. I didn't want an epidural. I didn't want anything. I just wanted to give birth naturally, and if possible in the water. So they started running the water, and then by this point Ian had found me, and I got into the water. So this is probably about midnight between Friday and Saturday, and got into the water, and Ian was annoying me so much, but he wasn't really doing anything. But because I was in labour, I was frustrated, and Ian was the only person in the room to be frustrated at. And I remember he was sat there on his phone playing a game, minding his own business, and I was just looking at him, and I was like, and it was quite funny, because I remember afterwards being like, didn't even do anything, but I was just so mad because the pain was just horrendous. And every time I had a contraction, he'd like rub my back, and he was really good. And I think he was really worried, because I don't think I've ever been in that amount of pain in my entire life. And I got in the pool, I got out the pool, I was in the pool, I was so uncomfortable. It was so horrific. And then I think the midwife that we had was really good. She was coming off shift maybe about 6 o'clock in the morning, give or take, maybe even 7 o'clock, and we were being handed over to another midwife. And by this point, you had pooed inside of me, so I wasn't allowed in the water anymore. I had to be on the bed. I had to give birth on the bed, so I wanted to give birth in the water. So the midwife handed over, and then I remember she said, your baby's going to come in the next hour. This was probably about 7 o'clock in the morning, maybe even 6:30. I was like, right, okay. And it's all a bit of a daze, to be honest, this part. But then you were born at 8:55, 8:54, 8:57 a.m. You were born at 8:57 a.m. on Saturday morning, so Saturday the 10th of March. And I remember pushing and pushing and pushing. I remember the crowning. I remember it all. It was the most painful thing I've ever gone through. But then you came out. So I've got a picture here. Look, I'm in shock. The pain was that bad. I'm in complete shock. And I just remember this massive surge of immense love. Like, I've never felt anything like it. Obviously, I love Farah to the same amount, but this surge of a love that you have when you give birth, it's just incredible. I was just so in love with you, like head over heels, instantly in love with you. And Ian was so proud, and we did delayed cord clamping, and we did the breastfeeding and skin to skin, and you were just, can't even describe it. You were just amazing. Amazing of human being. So that was a Saturday morning. So we obviously told everybody that you'd been born, and then the midwife had said to me, because she knew I wanted to be discharged from Leicester and go to Melton midwife-led hospital, she said, you can go when you've had a wee by yourself. I could not wee. I could not, for love nor money, go for a wee. It sounds so simple, doesn't it? I just couldn't. Things were not working as they should have been. And it took me a good few hours to get that urine out, basically. And then once I did that, she said I could go. So this is probably like after lunch at this point. It's probably like maybe 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday-ish, if I can remember right. So Ian strapped you into your car seat. This is Saturday. You've been born this day. And we drove over to Melton. He kept going over flipping speed bumps, really getting on my nerves because everything hurt. Oh yeah, I forgot to say I was torn really badly as well. I had 3rd-degree tears. Being sewn up was even worse than the childbirth. Everything just got worse and worse and worse. Pain just kept growing and growing and growing. Anyway, so we got back to Melton, and then Grandma and Granddad came to Farah. So Farah met you. Farah was at 19 months old. She couldn't have cared less. She was not pleased at all, even though we'd bought presents from you to give to your sister, a Hoover and a doll. Not bothered. Bought a little Dyson Hoover. Anyway, stayed in hospital on Saturday night, and something wasn't quite right, but I just thought it was just your average what happens to babies when they're born naturally, because Farah was a cesarean, so I couldn't compare. And you kept coughing up phlegm and not feeding right, and something wasn't quite right, and all through the night. And I remember asking the midwife a few times through the night, like, is this normal? Like, yeah, it's completely normal. And I was like, all right, okay. And you didn't feed properly, so you hadn't had a proper feed all day Saturday and all night Saturday night. And it came to Sunday, and Ian came back, and I was like, oh, I'm a bit worried. She's not really feeding. And he was like, it's totally normal. I was like, okay. And Farah came to the hospital on the Sunday as well. And Farah's never, ever poorly, ever. And on this particular Sunday, Farah threw up at the hospital. She was sick everywhere. And it was really unusual because she's never sick. So I said I wanted to discharge me and the baby, so you, and go home and look after Farah because she's never sick, she's never away from me, and she needed her mum. So I discharged us, and we went home early. And you hadn't had your 24-hour check at this point, so it was Sunday. So we went home on Sunday, and we were together as a family. That's probably Sunday afternoon. We had some photos on the sofa, and I remember Farah brushing her hair, and that was the first time she sort of interacted with you. She had this little brush and she was brushing your hair, and it was really sweet. And then your great granddad Bernard came over, Mim and Baku, Sol and Anthea came over, and everyone was sort of like, you know, baby's gorgeous and everything. And still weren't feeding. And then that night, Farah went to bed. Did you have a bath? No, I think you had a bath the next day, I think. I can't remember if we bathed you that night or the next day, but all night Sunday night something wasn't right, and you still weren't feeding. We kept trying to feed you, and you just weren't having any of it, and you kept coughing up this phlegm, and something wasn't okay. Then it was Monday morning, and still something was not okay with you. And the midwife came to the house and said, something's not right. And I remember she said, give her a bath because she's probably got a cold. Like, right, okay. And she also said, you need to book your 24-hour check in with the GP and take your baby to the GP. So we booked that, and that was later on Monday afternoon. So we gave you a bath. Something still wasn't right, and we had you in this little swinging rocking chair because nothing was settling you, and it was really unusual. Now, looking back, you were having seizures. At the time, we didn't know that's what it was. And we went to the GP as a 4. Farah came with us. We saw Dr. Dendry, and she and Ian was the one banging the drum saying that something's definitely not okay. And Dr. Danji said you need to take your baby to Leicester Royal as an emergency appointment. You need to drop off your other daughter, Farah, and you need to get over there, and you need to take an overnight bag. And it was like the ground had swallowed us up, really, because we'd just come out of hospital. And for me, the thought of leaving Farah again was horrible, and taking my child into an emergency hospital appointment, it was scary. And all the way from Melton, we dropped Farah off with Grandma, and all the way from Melton to Leicester, you were screaming in the car, and I remember sitting in the back. I remember leaning over and trying to put my boob in your mouth to try and feed you, and sat, and it was screaming and screaming the whole way. And we got to Leicester. It's a bit of a blur, really, but we got there. And I remember we were sat in the waiting area, and there was another patient there, and it was this guy, this man, and he said, oh, your baby? I'm like, yeah. He said, can I hold her? And I remember saying, no, that's not relevant to the story, I just remember that. And then they called you, Evanna Wells called you through quite quickly. It was in really quickly, actually. And they had you on this bed, and they were checking you, and they said, we think she's got a virus, so we're going to give her some antibiotics. And I remember thinking, oh, phew, antibiotics. Okay, it's fine. So this was Monday, and you were born on Saturday. And I remember Ian knew that it wasn't that, there was something more to it. And then you did this massive seizure where you stopped breathing and you were having convulsions, you were shaking. The scariest thing. It's the scariest thing I've ever seen, until I saw you have one when you were a 4-year-old. But at that moment, it was the scariest thing I've ever seen. And we hit the red light. We hit the emergency light, and all of these medical staff came running in, and the room was filled with people, about 10 people, and they were doing all sorts of stuff on you, trying to bring you back. It was so scary. And then he came around and they said, we think it's more serious than what we thought. We're going to book her in for a CT scan. I didn't know what that was then. So we were just like, okay, you've got to do what you got to do. So on the Monday night, they took you in, this tiny little baby. A tiny, tiny little baby with this massive bed. We came with you. We went into a lift. We went down. And then we got to the room where the CT scan area was. And they said, you can't go in. And they took you in. And it was the first time that you'd ever been away from me. It was horrible. We sat outside that room for probably about 40 minutes. It was horrific. And I remember Ian couldn't cope. So he had to leave. He had to go out the hospital, and I think he made a phone call to Grandma, I think, and to my mum, I think. And you were fine that he came out. And the relief, he came out, and then we went back to the room. We didn't have the results at this point. And then we sat with you back in the little ward area, back in the room, a little room. And I don't know how much longer it was, but it was still Monday night, where someone came to speak to us and they said, we've seen something and we need to get over for an MRI scan. All right. And I believe that it was the same night you had the MRI scan. And I believe it was the same procedure. We went down. We had to wait outside. It was longer this time. And you went in and had your MRI scan. And then you came out. And then you went on to intensive care. This was probably about Monday. This was a Monday night going into Tuesday now. So early hours of Tuesday morning, about 3 o'clock in the morning. You went on to intensive care. You still didn't know what was happening. And you were hooked up to everything there. And I remember they had some staff come to speak to us. And they said, do you understand how the severity of this? Do you understand how serious this is? And I was like, no, I didn't have a clue what was going on. And they said, it's really serious. And I can't remember the exact words, but basically it was along the lines of she might not see the next morning. And I just remember my heart was broken. I just had this most precious little baby, this gift, and she was about to be taken away. And I wouldn't leave you at all. The only time I left you was when I sat outside the CT and the MRI scan. I was there the whole time. When you're on intensive care, they said to us, you can have a bed, like outside in the family area. And I said, no, thank you. And I sat in the chair next to you and I slept next to you the whole time. I did that for days. Oh, let's see if I've got a photo. Oh, that was just the most horrendous thing. You were such a great little thing. Everything you went through. Such a brave little girl. And poor Farah as well, being like torn away from her whole family. When Farah came to visit us in the hospital on Sunday, this is a picture of that. When she came to visit you. There's some other pictures. I don't want to be in hospital. When we came home on Sunday, Right, let's see. On the Sunday, there's Farah and you look. Let's find some of you in hospital. And when I said you were having those seizures and we put you into that swing, that was the swing. You were screaming the whole time. Okay, let's make sure you're in hospital. That was the chair I slept in. Big breast pump next to me. And then, so then we're on the Tuesday morning. And we had a consultant come and talk to us. And he said, Evanna's got cerebral venous thrombosis. So do you know what that is? I said, no. He said, she's having brain hemorrhage and a stroke. And she's going to have severe brain damage if she survives this. God, Evanna. Oh my God, you're just a miracle. I sat with you, sat next to you the whole time. Just loved upon you. I didn't know how long we had you for. So I just loved upon you. I just loved and loved and loved upon you. And just, oh God, I just loved you so much. And Farah would come and visit. And Farah never had chocolate at this point, or sweets, or cake, or crisps, anything like that. We were really strict with what she could have. And when we were in hospital, we didn't have the energy for it. So there's Farah eating her first packet of crisps. She had her first chocolate when you were in hospital, because we just didn't have the energy to parent her like we had been. It's just a case of just survival. We just went into survival mode. I did that as well. Oh my gosh. So you got better. You moved on to an intensive, to a high dependency ward, and you just thrived. You just got better and better and better, and you just shocked everybody. So you came home, and I remember leaving the hospital, because I never left the hospital either. When you were in there, I stayed there. There was one time when I did leave with Grandma and Granddad, and I came back to Melton to spend some time with Farah, and I spent some time with Farah, and I put Farah to bed, and then that night I couldn't cope without you, and I said to Suzanne, can you just take me back to Leicester, which she did. So she took me back to Leicester. That was the only time I left the hospital the whole time. I couldn't cope without you. And other than that, I stayed next to you the whole time. And God, it was horrible. Anyway, so then you were discharged and you came home. Our little miracle came home. So there you are, 10 weeks. Look at you, our little angel. There you are, smiling for the first time. You were the shining beacon in our life that we needed. You were everything that we didn't know we needed and more. You were an absolute gift. You were a complete and utter gift. You shone so brightly onto our lives. I will never, ever be grateful enough for everything that you have done for our family. You are the absolute pinnacle. There's our double pushchair. That was our first holiday in Great Yarmouth. You are the most incredible human being. There you got the Sea Life Centre. Sorry about that. Yeah, you were just the most magical thing in our lives, and watching you grow in your first year, what a special little dot you were. And you know what, you had a shitty first couple of years, because you were constantly in hospital, you were constantly being poked and prodded, you were constantly being MRI scanned, put to sleep. You went through more than what the average adult goes through in their whole entire life. You are the most strongest, most courageous, most special, most incredible of people. And you have shown me strength that I didn't even know that human beings could even have. You are an absolute marvel of a person. And if there's one thing I want you to know, if in my absence, as you grow up, I want you to know how very unique you are. There is nobody on this planet like Evanna Wells. You have the greatest amount of kindness that I've ever met. You are so thoughtful. You are so kind. You are so polite. You're so helpful. You give a damn about things that most people don't. You are so brave alongside of it. You don't care if you're in a group of people and there's one person on the side. You don't care about any kind of peer pressure. You'll go over and make sure that person's okay. You are really kind. You're brave. You have more courage than anyone I've ever met. You are the greatest person to know, without a shadow of a doubt. You're an amazing person to know. And I've only had 5 years with you, and I just can't even imagine how the rest of your life's going to pan out, because you're so special, such a special little thing. And I look at you and I just think, what did I do to deserve such an amazing person in my life? And I think all of the things that you've been through have just made you the person that you are. And I don't know how you're going to feel growing up, knowing that you went through all of this, but as somebody on the side watching what you went through, I think it's made her the most incredible person. And I wouldn't change a thing. I don't know how you feel, because you're the one that went through it, not me, but I wouldn't change anything. You are so special, and I don't even have the right words to explain how special you are. And I really hope that you realize that you don't need to follow the crowd. You don't need to succumb to peer pressure when it's not what it is that you want to do. You have your own personality, and you do what you want to do, as long as it doesn't cause anybody else any upset. You're kind, you're courageous, you're brave, you're inspirational, you're self-motivated, you're driven, you're honest, too honest sometimes, which is quite good as a parent. You're just spectacular, you're extraordinary. And I couldn't have asked for a more incredible human in my life. And I honestly believe that you were given to us as a gift. I do. I genuinely believe you were handplucked for us as a gift, because I just couldn't have asked for better. You have given us so much that the words that I give you now don't even comprehend what it is that you've brought to our lives. And I feel like this all of the time about you. And the more and more I've thought about doing a video about this and thinking, if anything does happen to me, I want Evanna to know how absolutely extraordinary she is and how I thought of her. I want you to know, and that's why I've decided to do this, so that you've got this, so you've got it, and so that you can always be reminded. And just, you're so special, so beautiful as well. You just have the most piercing, beautiful eyes. And I remember we started off calling you Evanna, and then Farah couldn't say that, so she used to call you Wanna. And then Wanna went to Wan, and then so very quickly you became Wan, or the Wan. And Ian always used to say, your dad always used to say, everybody needs a Wan. And we always laughed about it. And it is true, everyone needs a Wan. Everybody needs a Wan, because you bring something so special and you definitely do to our family. I couldn't imagine our family without you in it, without our WAN. God, you've been through some crazy stuff there. You used to smear poo all over the wall. You had sensory processing disorder, so you had a lot of autistic traits. And my goodness me, girl, it's a good job you're so cute, because you used to really, really push things to the extreme. Oh my gosh, I used to really struggle. Trying to think of all the wonderful other things I can say about you, because there's so many. We co-slept with you until you were about 3 years old. me and your dad were so worried about you having your fits and seizures, which you had a lot of, and you just stopped breathing. We were so scared to lose you, so we'd keep you in our bed and you'd sleep in the middle of us. So whenever you had one of your seizures, we would know straight away, so I'd be able to feel to make sure you were still breathing. And we found it just as hard as you did when you started transferring to your own bedroom, because we missed you so much, because it was always so nice to have you there to cuddle up to. You're a wonderful sister. You're the kindest sister. You're so good with Farah. Even when Farah's like worried or anxious or nervous, you're so good with her. You don't like having your hair cut. You hate having your hair cut or your hair washed. You do not like having your nails cut. You love food. You love all kinds of food. You're not fussy at all. You'll eat anything. When you were younger, you used to eat feta cheese and natural Greek yogurt by the barrel loads. You love that. You love hummus. You love pita breads. You love, what else do you love? I think what else you really enjoy? Corn on the cob, you like? You love smoothies and protein shakes. You love to talk. I'm trying to think what else you would find interesting that I could tell you about yourself. Maybe that's enough. Maybe I've spoken. Maybe I've. Just hope that by doing this video, when you watch it, whether you're 15, 18, 25, 30, however old, I hope that when you watch it, you understand how much I love you. Because how much I love you is intense for me. The feeling is intense for me. And it sometimes feels like my heart could explode when I see you and I think of you. It's like I can't cope, because I just love you so much. And I personally found it very difficult when you started preschool, and then when you started school, and when you went swimming lessons where you don't have an adult with you, and your adult has to sit on the balcony and watch you while you're in the pool with the teacher. I find it very hard when I'm letting go of you to the next stage, when we stopped holding you on your bike as you were learning to ride your bike. Oh my goodness, my little baby. I'm very, very, very not protective of you, because we let you do the things that it is you need to do, but oh my god, I feel nervous when you are going to the next level, because I just want to keep you for as long as possible the way that you are, because every time you go on to the next stage, you're changing and you're developing into this young lady, and we're so proud of you. And I think with everything we've been through with you, you are a precious daughter to us anyway, but because we very nearly lost you, it makes us even more like, oh my god, we've got to keep Evanna forever and ever and ever. And you're going to move out at some point. You're going to probably be married at some point, I would imagine, and you'll be going on to do the things that you want to do, and we probably won't be as much of a part of that as probably what we are now. But I want you to know that I'm so happy that it was you that we got to have as our child. Of all the children in the world, so grateful that we got you. And I just hope that you feel that way about me and your dad. I hope that you feel that you've got good parents. You know, we're not perfect, which nobody is. But I don't think that anyone could love you as much as what me and your dad love you. And I hope that you know that, really, of all the things that you do in your life, I hope that you feel so loved. That's all I ask for. As you grow up, I hope that you make a ton of mistakes finding your way to find what it is that you want to do. And I hope that you feel intensely loved by your mum and dad, because we don't half love you. So that's that for me. I love you so much, Evanna. You are our pride and joy.